I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you
Greetings technicians, this is Admin Crow here, your coach of the Toronto Star Raptors, bringing you the battle for a brand new season of the PCL. This is Season 3, Week 1 of the Pokemon Champions League, and this week we are taking on one of the best coaches, in my opinion, in this season of the league, Palukkie, aka the coach of the Vialfre Venusuars. He's actually a Season 1 champion for the Pokemon Champions League. So I believe last season he also had a chance to participate in the league for Season 2. However, due to some personal reasons, he has to drop out of the league. So he's coming back strong once again this season. I believe his draft is also ranked overall number 1 across the entire league, while our draft is ranked 15th. I also made a team builder for this team that I brought, so if you guys want to know the stuff that I brought and the sets and the EVs, all that good stuff, I will leave that in the link down in the description below. So in this video, I'm just gonna go into the battle and explain my turn-to-turn thought process and how I managed to play out the entire battle. So just to give you guys a heads up, this is actually one of the best battles, one of the best battles, or one of my personal favorite battles throughout all my battles in the PCL so far. That includes Season 2 in its entirety. So let's just hop right into it. So over here at Team Preview, I see right away that he didn't bring a Skarmory. In all of my mocks, these mons showed up in a lot of my mocks. Especially the Mamoswine and Incineroar. I also mentioned it in my team builder. I believe those two have a really good chance of coming, and the likelihood of Skarmory coming is also pretty possible, simply because that's his only form of reliable hazard removal aside from Latias, his Mega. But if he does decide to bring his Mega Latias, I think it's gonna be a more offensive set. But as you can see, he doesn't bring either of those, so his only way of hazard removing would be that potential defog on Coco. So if he's using Coco as a pivot, or I guess using up a defog as one of his slots, it's very unlikely that he will have coverage for all of my members across the roster. But obviously it didn't come to me at first. Over here, I'm just gonna lead with, I was actually going back and forth between either leading Volcarona to potentially set up right away in before hazards, or going to my Mega Absol and Mega Evolve turn 1 to prevent potential Stealth Rocks coming up from either the Uxie or potential Mamoswine, or even the T-Spikes coming from the Weezing. Oh, actually, does Weezing even get T-Spikes? I didn't prep for that thing. Anyways, but just to prevent hazards overall, and potentially knock out that Mamoswine with superpower coming from my app. So I do have a really good chance of knocking it out, despite my app so being a speed boosting nature without a attack boosting nature, obviously. But the reason I decided to go with Volcarona lead, which you guys should see right here, is simply because I didn't want this exact scenario. So if he does lead Coco, it will immediately put me on the back foot, simply because he will be able to do a tremendous amount of damage to my Mega Absol. Just with the U-turn, he doesn't even have to go for his electric stab, and plus on top of that, I will lose momentum. So it's a risk that I am willing to take, or just by leading with my Volcarona and potentially take a Z-Fly or a Brave Bird, as I did EV this thing to live any hit that this Coco wants to go for, barring a Z-Fly. But I don't really want to find out another way, simply because this Volcarona is also designed to set up on the Coco, and I need to find out whether if this Coco is choiced right now. And as you can see, he actually does go for that turn 1 Z-Fly and be able to knock out my Volcarona. This is something that did not happen in my mock, but in most of my mock battles, my Volcarona actually went down without having to do anything. I actually EV'd my Volcarona to guarantee to live a adamant max attack Brave Bird coming from Coco to prevent this from happening. but obviously he's gonna be able to net the KO with the fly, and with my investment I also guarantee to live a adamant non-item boosted acrobatics coming from Halucha. So well, not guaranteed, but have a 75% to live one. But even though I lost my Volcarona turn 1, I wasn't panicking or anything, but simply because I know that this Coco is not Scarf. It doesn't have any way of outspeeding my +1 Nihilego if I so do decide to get a chance to get off a beast boost, as I am a speed boosting nature or I guess EV Nihilego. So over here I actually just gonna go into my Jotian to find out what type of pivoting move this Coco has, and I am Volt Absorb, so it prevents him from going for electric type move. As you can see, he does go for that U-turn. He actually did a lot of damage to my Electron, so that made me more comfortable with my initial lead, not going with my anti-lead Absol. Because I am a Jotian with a lot of HP and a little bit of defense as well, even though it still did around 1/3 of my health with that U-turn coming off the Tapu Koko. So over here I'm just gonna go for a Shadow Ball. As you can see, he does go pivot out into his Peppermint, which is his Incineroar. It's something that I did highly expect to come, simply because it's one of his better switch-ins to potential Fury Z Volcarona, and as you can see, it's a Southwest variant, as my Shadow Ball only did 9%. Because Palukkie was actually doing a live comm, so I actually ended up doing a lot of calcs while he's making his move, or going over his thought process during the live con, which is something I don't really do in a lot of my battles. I don't really calc all that much. It just play intuitively. Anyways, so I guess that's good for me. I get to find out that this Incineroar is choice. I mean, it's a Southwested right away. I do get a Steph drop right here, but it's actually better for. I guess it didn't matter in the long run, as you guys will see in a little bit, but it does impact the way I play over here, because on the following turn I actually went for the Volt Switch and be able to do a lot of damage to this Incineroar and put him in range of any attack coming off my Azu, which is my switching right here. As you can see, he does go for the knockoff and find out that I am packing a Citrus Berry, so that sort of gives away my set. I am Betty Short Drum variant, but because I have a lot of speed on this Neutron, the Azumarill, to speed creep his Alola Mola, which has a base speed of 65, I believe, which put myself also above the Incineroar. I'm just going to be able to go for a liquidation on the following turn and knock it out. However, I would like to backtrack a little bit. The reason I actually debated back and forth between going for a Volt Switch with my Jotian or just hard switch into my Azumarill to take the hit is because I was so afraid that, because the fact that I got a Steph drop on this Incineroar, he might try to save this thing and just go hard into Mammal on my Electron, the Jotian, to block my electric type move and gain a lot of offensive momentum that way. So it's something I really couldn't afford. That's why then again, I also want to get damage off on this Incineroar, simply because it's also one of the mons that's preventing my Jotian and Nihilego to put in work, as I know that it's indeed a Southwest. So good thing that it worked out, and yeah, I'm just going to be able to outrun this Incineroar and go for a hard liquidation. This is another turn of 50-50, simply because I have to play in a fashion that his Tapu Koko does pack the electric coverage, which actually I found out after the game that he doesn't have a electric type move to hit my Azumarill with to begin with, but of course I didn't know at this point. I'm just gonna go for the Aqua Jet instead of going to my Electron and Jotian, because judging from that damage, the last U-turn did 37%, and plus I am a Life Orb variant. I can't really afford to take that U-turn. Even if I do take that U-turn and be able to live with my Jotian, and I will only be able to fire off one hit because I am Life Orb. So it seems like a 50-50 right here, but if you think about it, I really have no choice, simply because I can't afford to lose the momentum right here. He doesn't really have to go for electric type move right here. He can just go for a U-turn because it covers my Zhouxiang switching as well as be able to maintain momentum. But I do make the correct play over here by going for that Aqua Jet to get the damage that I need for my Nihilego. That's actually all the damage that I need. And on the following turn, because again I have no switch into this Ambipom, and I need to find out whether if this thing is Choice Scarfed or some sort of boosting item. Because I calced again right here, I guarantee to live any hit coming from this Ambipom, even if he's adamant, if he's not a boosting item. So from so I just stay in and go for another Aqua Jet with my Azumarill, just be able to just put them in range of my Power Gem coming from my Nihilego, or even a potential Sucker Punch coming off Mega Absol, as this Ambipom is probably jolly nature to speed tie with my Mega Absol. That was the mindset that I have there. So I calc this as well. Even if he's adamant nature, he's not going to be able to do 61% to my Azumarill if he's not a boosting item. So because the fact that I don't see Life Orb, there's two options. He might either be Soak Scarf, or I guess he might be Choice Band as well, because he didn't go for Fake Out. So those two are the two item of choice that I have in mind at this point of the game. So I'm just gonna go into my Clef Key right here and be able to, I believe I do go for one layer of Spike right here, even though two of these members are not grounded, but I really need that chip damage on the Mammal because that's the only thing that still need to be chipped down for my Nihilego to put in work. And as he does make a hard switch into his Coco on this turn and be able to defog away in my spikes right away as I get off a Toxic on the Coco. So I was actually kind of afraid of him putting a double into Wheezing, because with my set, my Clef Key set, I can't actually do anything to the Wheezing at all. Plus the Wheezing might very well have the Flamethrower just for the Clef Key, but good thing he stayed in and decided to get rid of the defog to defog away the spikes. I do understand his thought process here over a little bit, because I very well may set up screen on the same turn. So if he gets the defog right, not only he will be able to get rid of the spike, even though it's only one layer, it doesn't really hinder his team all that much, but he will also be able to get rid of my screen. That's why I didn't want to review it right here. I want to see what his response, or whether if he has that defog first. So over here, I believe I do go for another layer of spike just to force him to defog and just be able to get it up. And again, I need that trip damage on the Mammal, and plus I know I do know that I live any hit this Coco wants to go for, and I can very well set up a Reflect afterwards, as he seems to be a more physically offensive variant. So as he make a switch into Uxie right here, I made my switch into Mega Absol simply because I want to get it in before rocks, as I am not Mega Evolved, so I won't have that magic bounce ability to bounce back the rocks, but at least I can get offensive momentum and just be able to fire off a really strong knockoff. Even the Coco doesn't want to take it, even though it's Flying MZ, but as you can see, it actually worked out super well, simply because he actually went for the trick on my Clef Key. But of course that's not gonna work, and it's most likely Choice Scarf, even though I don't really get to see what item he has on my Mega Absol, obviously. And he's of course forced to switch right here as I go for a really strong knockoff. As you can see, he did 40% to that Wheezing. I also calced again because I had so much time in between each turn, because again Palukkie was doing a live con, so I know that this Wheezing is fully physically defensive, if not fully physically defensive, but has a lot of physical bulk. So I calced my Thunderbolts accordingly. In hindsight, I probably should have gone for a Thunderbolt in the previous turn, because the terrain was still up and there was no way that he will go Mammal predicting the Thunderbolt coming from Mega Absol, just because that I might very well go for a knockoff on that turn. But even though this Thunderbolt on the following turn is not terrain boosted, it's still gonna do a solid 30%. as he busts out the infestation and prevent my Absol from switching, I'm fine with that because it doesn't really do a lot of damage to my Mega Absol, and I wasn't planning on switching anyways. So the calc is heavily in my favor to knock out this Weezing. Actually, I believe it was a minimum of 29% and it was sitting at 30%, so it was also a risk that I was willing to take. Plus I don't really know what this Weezing wants to do to me. Because I have that magic bounce ability, he's pretty much forced to go for an attack. Anyways, so luckily we do get a roll and be able to knock out that Weezing. He's gonna go into his Tapu Koko right here. Normally I would sack my Absol, but simply because I still have my Klefki at full, I'm just gonna go into it right here and be able to take the U-turn very well. U-turn is overall his better play as he does go gets him momentum. So he actually going into his Mamoswine for the first time. This is exactly what I wanted, simply because I went into my keys not on a free switching against the Mamoswine, but rather he went into his Mamoswine on his own momentum swinging move, being that U-turn. So I don't give away the fact that I have something for this Mamoswine with my keys. So immediately I went for the Magnarize as he does go for Earthquake. He told me after the fact that he literally said I very well may have the Magnarize during his live con, but in hindsight, I think if I'm in his position, I would have gone for the Earthquake anyways, simply because I don't really have a switch in to the Earthquake. Plus, like what other play will you make otherwise, right? Knockoff maybe or Icicle Crash, but it's not really a move that's worth, I guess, worth risking if he does go for the Icicle Crash, and I didn't have the Magnarize, right? And so on the following turn, I'm just gonna go for Reflect to see if this Mamoswine is choice locked. But as you can see, he's not only not Life Orb, but also not choice. He's gonna be able to get rid of my item with that knockoff. So over here, I actually made a very ballsy play, knowing that there's no way he's gonna go for Earthquake this turn with his Mamo. I predicted him to go into his Tapu Koko on my Klefki because at this point he knows all 4 moves on my Klefki right now. Magnarize, Reflect, Toxic, and Spike. And because his Tapu Koko is already toxic, he very well know that I have nothing to touch him with my Klefki anymore. And this is this is probably my favorite play from my side throughout this entire match. So I actually went hard Nihilego on this Mamoswine, predicting him to go into his Tapu Koko. And at this point, I still don't know that this Tapu Koko doesn't have an electric type move to touch my Nihilego. So even then, this thing's more physically offensive, just judging that damage, how much damage that U-turn did to my Jolteon. And I'm very safe to be able to take the Brave Bird very well with my Nihilego and just be able to knock it out with a Power Gem. So at this point, I do get a speed boost with my Nihilego, because the fact that I didn't actually outspeed the Tapu Koko, so he knows that I am not choice scarfed, but it doesn't matter at this point. I do get that 1.5 speed boost from my Nihilego. Just ensure me to outspeed anything he has at the back, and I know for a fact that the Ambipom is not scarfed, judging from how much damage it did, and Mamoswine wasn't scarfed either. Even if he was scarfed, he's not going to be able to outspeed my Nihilego at +1. And we do know that Wuxi is choiced in some way, whether if that being spec or scarf, more likely to be scarfed because it is packing that trick. So over here, because the fact that he doesn't know that I am choice spec, which I do go for another Power Gem right here and get a roll. Well, it was not really a roll depending on his set, but it was heavily in my favor. But if he doesn't have any HP investment with his Mamoswine, I guarantee the kill with Power Gem because he does 75.9% minimum. And that's why the 1 layer of Spike is so crucial. It just put him in range of my Power Gem because even with the Reflect up, I'm not going to be able to take a EQ from his Mamoswine anyways, despite the fact that he's not a boost like attack, I guess attack boosting item Mamoswine. I guess he could be Earthplate, but anyways, so that's why the 1 layer of Spike came into play right here. With that 2 Spike entry, it put mammo in the range where my choice spec power gem will be able to knock it out. I'm pretty sure Palukkie calced it as well. There's not a single move that I can go for with my Nihilego to be able to knock out his Mammo Swine unless I am Edge Plate or choice spec. I think even with Edge Plate, I'm not going to be able to knock out his Mammo. So over here, I'm just going to be able to get another speed boost with my Nihilego. Now I ensure myself to outspeed that Uxie. But it didn't really matter with the speed boost at this point, simply because I outsped his entire roster anyways after the first speed boost. So over here, it's pretty much GG as he make a last ditch effort over there with his Ember Pump by trying to go for the fake out to stall out my reflectors and sack his Uxie by going for 2 dazzling gleams. He can't really lock himself into a psychic move. Simply because I do have that Mega Absol at the back and the Clef Key as well. And even though I know that he very well may go for a Side Shock or something, but it was in my best interest to stay in with my Nihilego anyways. I can take 2 Psychics, even a Side Shock I think. Yeah, it's I'm just gonna be able to knock out the Uxie in 3 power gems and be able to clean up the game by picking up that KO on the Ember Pump with another power gem. So in the end there, I did get, I believe, 4 kills on Nihilego. So definitely a great game. It's probably a lot closer than it looks, even though it's a 4-0, and GG to Palukkie for sure. And I really enjoyed this game a lot simply because I have to make a lot of offensive doubles, or I guess a lot of offensive predictions to ensure myself to be able to maintain that offensive momentum, especially the Azu play versus both the Ember Pump and the Coco early on. Just be able to get off 2 big Acrojet against 2 of the more threatening offensive mons against me early on to allow my Nihilego to be able to put in the finest work in the late game. Of course, I didn't know that the Tapu Koko didn't actually have an electric type move to hit my members with anyways, but my mindset in a lot of turns was because the play going to Zhou was way too obvious, and I can't really afford to let him gain momentum by not going for electric type move, by going for U-turn or something along the lines, to lose momentum overall, simply because there's a very little way for me to get my offenses safely in and for them to dish out damage. That's why I didn't want to lose the momentum, and obviously in the end it turns out that I was correct, and the Raptors was be able to pick up a W here in the end. So again, a great game to Palukkie, and hopefully we'll see each other in the playoffs. Because the system that was set up this season, we don't actually play again despite the fact that we are in the same division. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy. This is gonna be Admin Crow here, signing off. See you in the next one. Goodbye, technicians.